All right, ELA B30 students, welcome back to the second half of the course. And of course, you did the first unit, and ELA B30 is generally about the human condition, and the first unit was more about what makes humans human and looking at those kinds of elements. The second part of the course, the second unit, kind of looks at stuff like that as well, but it takes more of a look at social justice and whether or not they're universal values, principles, and things of those nature, or things of that nature. However, I also throw in a couple of assignments here because some of you are going to need to be able to write beyond grade 12, and that means there's certain parameters, there's certain guidelines that you need to be able to adhere to, especially if you're doing academic writing. And one of those is being able to cite your work or be able to give credit where credit is due when you're taking ideas from other people. And one of the basic ways of doing that is to be able to create a works cited page. And I'm just going to go over the assignment here that I have for creating a works cited page in MLA. MLA stands for Modern Language Association. That really doesn't matter. Just know that there are other formats as well. And you have to check with instructors because they might have a specific way that they want you to be able to cite work. And it might not always be MLA. So anyways, we're going to use MLA. The other thing is it's really not that difficult to do another type of format because they're all similar, and there's no way you're going to memorize, and there's no way you should have to memorize everything. You just look up a guide, basically, because you're going to come across scenarios that you haven't thought of, and you need to be able to just locate that information on your own. So as you can see here, I've actually highlighted the title here, and I've given you a link to the OWL Writing Lab at Purdue University. The links change every once in a while, but the guide that has been there for, I would say, probably 20 years. I think I've been using it for longer than that, and it's probably still the best guide out there. So click on the title, look up the things that you need to look up, and that's all. Or you can come back to this sheet, and basically when you're creating a reference list or a works cited page, what it's correctly called in MLA, every citation or entry should have the following information. So if you remember nothing else, just look up where you have, where I have here, you need the information, you need the author, you need the title of the source, the title of the container, the version, the number, the publisher, the publication date, and the location. And even that, I would say the first four are critical, and the last four sometimes aren't always there. Okay, so I will go over that a little bit more as we go along, but at the bottom of the page, you can see that I have a works cited page example. And when I'm referring to an entry, this is an entry. All right, so in this particular works cited page, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 entries. Notice that it's called a works cited page. It's not called a bibliography or references or anything like that. It's called a works cited page, and it is centered. Notice a couple of other things here that it's a little bit weird in that when you're doing your entries, the first line is not indented, and every other line in the entry is indented 5 spaces. So if you're in Google Docs, which is what you're looking at right here, you just go up to your ruler, and actually you have to set your bottom arrow first, and then set your top arrow back, and that'll actually give you the correct indentation. Okay, so what else can I say here? So going back with the information, we'll take you through a couple of the works cited lists or works cited citations or entries. And the other part, I guess, that I should explain is that every one of these, 1, 2, 3, the author, the title, the source, these are individual elements that make up a citation. Okay? You should double space your works cited page as well. I don't have that double spaced here. simply because it would be hard to show everyone. So double space your citations. Entries, all entries should be in alphabetical order, starting with the author or the first element of information in your entry. So notice that every entry here, these would be in alphabetical order. In this particular case, they all have authors, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you're going to find an article, and you can question whether or not it's a good article for research if it doesn't have an author. But still, there will be pieces of work that you come across that do not have an author. In that case, you would just go to the next element in the citation, the title or so on. Okay, so so do not indent the first line of an entry, indent every other line thereafter. I've talked about that. Separate elements. Again, the elements are these 8 elements or items. Separate those with a period, and then separate the information within an element. Let's say an author has a first name and a last name. You separate that information with a comma. Titles of books within an element should go in italics. Titles of websites and journals in quotation marks, and titles of containers in italics. All right, so let's just go through a couple of the works cited entries here, and notice how it is formatted. Okay, so you see the author here. This would be the last name of an author, and this would be the first name. So it's last name, comma, first name, and then a period, noting that that element is over. Conflicting nationalisms, the voice of subaltern in Mahatsweda, Devil's Bashai Tudu. Not sure what that means, but I know it's a title because it's in quotation marks. So it is the title of a website or a journal in this case. And then Tulsa Studies in Women's Literature. That would be your container. Okay, and I didn't mention that. So you have the author, you have the source, and then you have the container, which is the larger container. I guess that's why they call it that, where you would find your source material. Okay. So in this case, Tulsa Studies in Women's Literature is in italics. It's the title of a container. Then it has the volume number, the publication date, and the page number where you would find that particular article. All right. The next one, again, last name, comma, first name, period, the location of culture, and then Routledge 1994. Okay, so the location of culture, the title of a book in this case, and it's in italics. Same thing with this one. You have author, last name, first name. You have Madness and Civilization, A History of Insanity in the Age of Reason. And this is also the title of a book. It's in italics. And in this case, you have other contributors. You have a guy here by the name of Richard Howard that translated this so that he gets credit right here. You have the publication information, or the publisher. You have the date of publication. The one thing that's missing is you do not have the place of publication. And you could put that as well if you could find it. All right, the next entry, again, author, last name, first name, title of the book. Notice how every element is separated by a period. I included this entry here because this has 2 authors. So how do you handle that? You put the first author, last name, comma, first name, and then you put just the other author, first name, last name. So it's kind of weird, but that's the way that goes. And then all the other information is the same. And this would be the example, this Susan Lundman article here from a website. So you have the author, last name, comma, first name, period. You have how to make vegetarian chili. That's the title of the article in quotation marks. You have eHow, which would be the source, and then you have the container, which would be the internet, and you have that citation as well. Notice that the HTTPS : / is eliminated, and you just go www, and then your web address. You used to have the date accessed. I don't see that anymore as being a requirement, so you don't have to put the date on which you accessed it. And then finally, this is how you would handle an article with more than 2 authors. So you have Wasaki, comma, and Francis, and then et al. Period. And et al., I'm not even sure what it means. I think it's a Latin phrase. But anyways, when I see that, I know that there's more than 2 authors. So given that, given this document, and then also given that I've given you the link to the Purdue Writing Lab, I want you to try an assignment on your own. I want you to create a works cited page, and that should include entries from the following. Pick any novel. Those are easy. Pick an article from a website, a little bit harder. Pick an article from a magazine, about the same level of difficulty as the website. A video, a little bit harder, and any article with 2 or more authors. The key, again, make sure that you are indenting the proper, or what you need to be indented. Make sure that it is in alphabetical order based on your entries, and then make sure that each element within an entry is separated by a period, and information within the element, or information within an element, yes, is separated by a comma. And that should be it.